Okay, picture this. You're playing a survival game. You know the type, Minecraft, Rust, whatever.
Yeah.
You've built your base, you've got your resources managed, and you're feeling pretty good. But then you notice something really weird.
Something's not right.
Your resource counter, your gold credits, whatever, it just keeps ticking down fast.
That is usually the moment where I pause and check the forums.
Right. Even when you aren't buying anything. Even when you're just standing still, the numbers are dropping, you'd assume the game was broken.
You'd say there's a glitch in the code.
You'd probably rage quit.
Oh, you would definitely file a bug report or, accuse the developers of rigging the whole system.
Exactly. Well, for thousands of people in Baja California Sur, Mexico, that glitch isn't in a game. It's in their plumbing.
And that ticking counter is their water bill.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a serious stack of documents today. Technical standards, international protocols, Mexican federal laws that build a pretty intense case against the public utility SFA.
That's the Sistema de Agua Potable y Alcantarillado.
Right.
And it is a fascinating, if a little frustrating, intersection of fluid dynamics, engineering ethics, and consumer law.
So what's our mission for this deep dive?
We're here to analyze the central argument from all these sources that SAP is essentially billing its customers for air. They are literally selling wind because of a structural flaw in how their grid is managed.
Selling wind. It sounds so poetic until you realize you're paying for it. And just to be clear for everyone listening, we're not just, riffing here.
No, not at all.
We have a heavy inventory for this. We're talking standards from the American Water Works Association, the AWWA.
We have international standards, the ISO.
We've got Mexican federal regulations, the NOMs, and, of course, the state laws of Baja California Sur.
It's a full audit of the system rules. And what you're going to find is that when you line up the physics of how air moves through pipes against the laws that regulate billing,
there's a huge gap.
A massive discrepancy, a literal glitch in the pipes that is costing people a lot of money.
So let's unlock this. We have to start with the physics, I think, because most people, myself included, just assume that air is free. If I turn on my tap and a little air sputters out, why on earth does that cost me money?
In the atmosphere, sure, air is free, but inside a water meter, it's incredibly expensive.
Right.
And to understand why, we have to look at the root cause identified in the sources, Tandeo.
Right, Tandeo. For anyone who hasn't lived where water is scarce, this is the system of intermittent supply. It's huge in Baja.
It is.
Basically, the water isn't on 24/7. You might get it for a few hours, maybe every couple of days.
Correct. And that is the setup for the glitch. When the water supply is cut off, the pipes, they don't stay full. They're not sealed vacuums.
Gravity takes over.
Gravity does its work. People at the bottom of the hill open their taps to get the last drops, and the water just drains out of the network. So what replaces it?
Air. Nature abhors a vacuum, so the pipes fill up with air.
Exactly. Now just imagine what happens when the utility turns those pumps back on. You have miles of empty pipe full of air, and suddenly high-pressure water comes rushing back in.
The sources say the water acts like a piston.
That's the perfect analogy. The water acts like this massive, solid piston, and it pushes these huge pockets of air engineers, call them slugs, ahead of it at very, very high speeds.
And this is where the meter comes in.
This is where we hit the real mechanic of the problem, the meter itself.
This is where I got a bit confused. The sources say the meters, the multi-jet or positive displacement types, are volumetric. What does that actually mean?
It means they're dumb.
Okay, I can work with dumb. How so?
Well, they measure the space that something occupies as it passes through. They are completely 100% blind to density.
So I can't tell the difference between water and air?
None at all. To the meter, a liter is a liter. Volume is volume. If something moves the little turbine inside, it counts it as delivered product. But wait, air is so light, water is heavy. I'd think the air would just sort of gently float through. Why does it spin the meter so fast?
That is the million-dollar question, or maybe the million-peso question.
Right.
The sources call this the overspin, and it comes down to one thing: compressibility. Water is, for all intents and purposes, incompressible.
It's a solid block of liquid.
Right, but air is a gas. It's highly compressible. And when that pressurized slug of air hits the tiny opening of the water meter, it has to accelerate to get through.
It speeds up to squeeze through the hole.
Drastically. It's trying to equalize pressure on the other side. And we look at studies from the International Water Association, the University of Perugia. They found this high-velocity air can spin the meter's turbine frantically.
The stats in the report were wild, up to 20 times faster with air than with water.
That's right, because the air has so much less resistance, less viscosity.
Yeah.
It just whips that little turbine around. Think of it like blowing on a pinwheel versus spraying it with a garden hose.
The air makes it scream.
It really does. So if I'm getting this right, if my pipe is full of air and that air blasts through my meter, the meter thinks a gigantic amount of water just went through because this little fan is spinning like crazy.
Exactly. And the billing impact is severe. One of the technical reports noted that if a pipe is, say, 75% water and 25% air, which is common in these sputtering Tandeo zones, you don't get a 25% error.
No,
You can get a 25% overbilling or even more.
because the meter reads that whole mix as if it were 100% liquid, but moving at the speed of the air.
Precisely. And there's another thing the sources mentioned, something they call jitter.
Jitter? Sounds like I've had too much coffee. In plumbing, I assume it's bad.
Very bad. See, even if the air isn't flowing through, pressure fluctuations in the main line can cause the air pockets trapped in your pipe to compress and expand.
So the water is just rocking back and forth inside the meter.
It's vibrating. And if the meter doesn't have a good reverse stop mechanism, which many don't, every time it rocks forward, it adds a little bit to your bill. It's like a taxi meter charging you while you're just sitting at a red light.
That is just incredibly frustrating. You're being charged for the system's turbulence, not the resource itself.
That's a great way to put it. You're paying for instability.
Okay, so the physics proves the glitch is real. We know the why. Now let's talk about the patch. Because if this is a known phenomenon, surely engineers have a fix for it.
They do.
The sources talk about a specific item, the air release valve.
Or the Válvula de Admisión y Expulsión de Air, the ARV. This is the hardware solution.
It sounds specialized, but is it complicated? How does it even tell the difference between air and water?
It's actually quite elegant, really simple. It usually sits at a high point on a pipe. Inside, there's a float.
Like in a toilet tank.
Kind of. When air is in the pipe, it's not dense enough to hold the float up, so the float drops. That opens a vent and the air just hisses out.
And when the water finally gets there,
The water rushes in, pushes that float up, and seals the vent tight. Air escapes, water stays in. It's totally automatic. No electricity, just buoyancy. It's so simple. Which brings me to the obvious question. Why isn't this everywhere? The documents we have, especially from ISO and the AWWA, they seem pretty mandatory about this.
oh, they are very clear. Let's take ISO 40642. Section 7.2.5 explicitly says that if there is a risk of air in the meter, an upstream valve shall be installed.
Note the word shall.
Right. In engineering standards, shall isn't a suggestion, it is a requirement,
And another section says meters must be constantly full of water to be accurate.
which, as we know, is impossible in a Tandeo system without these valves. You are, by definition, operating outside the device's certification.
And then there's the AWWA M51 manual, the gold standard for installation.
Yes, and it lays out a literal map of where these things need to go.
The MAP strategy, let's break that down. Where should they be?
3 main places. First, high points, summits. Air is lighter than water, so it naturally floats to the top of hills or raised sections of pipe. You have to vent it there.
So if you live on a hill in La Paz, you're basically an air trap. You could be, yes. Second, on long runs. Even on flat ground, the manual recommends valves every 400 to 800 meters to release what's called entrained air, little bubbles swept along in the current.
And the third one feels like the most critical one for you, the listener.
Absolutely. Upstream of the meter. The manual specifically says to put valves right before the meter to make sure only pure liquid touches that turbine.
So the accusation building in these documents is, well, it's pretty damning. It's basically arguing that if SAFA's network in a Tandeo zone is missing these valves, the system isn't just inefficient.
It's structurally defective. It's like selling a car with no brakes and then blaming the driver for crashing. The infrastructure is missing the critical safety components required by its own engineering standards.
Which leads us perfectly into the rules of the server, the legal side. Because it's one thing to say it's bad engineering and another to say it's illegal.
And the sources build a very strong argument that it is.
Okay, let's start with the Mexican federal rules.
Right. NOMEM 012 SCFI 1994. In the world of Mexican metrology, that's the science of measurement, this is the rule of Golden.
What does the golden rule say?
It certifies meters for liquid flow only. It defines a maximum permissible error. The argument is that any movement of that meter caused by pneumatic pressure, by air, immediately violates that certification.
The meter is behaving in a way it was never approved for.
Exactly. And then you have CONAGUA, the National Water Commission.
Right.
Their own manuals, specifically Libro 39 of the MAPO series, identifies air in pipes as a primary source of error and explicitly mandates purging it.
So you have the Fed saying, get the air out, and the standard saying, only measure liquid.
Correct.
But what about the local level? Baja California Sewer, does the state law offer any protection?
This is where you, the user, have a shield. The Ley de Aguas de BCS, Article 134. This article is your best friend.
Okay.
It says that if a measurement is inaccurate due to causes not attributable to the user, and a bad network design is definitely not the user's fault, the tariff must be adjusted.
That feels like a slam dunk. Not attributable to the user.
Yeah.
I didn't put the air in the pipe, as APA did when they shut the water off.
Precisely. And this opens the door to two very heavy-hitting legal concepts from the strategy docs. First is vicio oculto.
A hidden defect. Sounds ominous.
It is. You, the user, you can't see underground. You have no idea they skipped installing an ARV at the top of the hill. But that hidden defect is costing you money. The law protects consumers from that.
And the second one?
Enriquecimiento legítimo. Unjust enrichment. The Federal Civil Code, Article 1882, says charging for a service that wasn't rendered is illegal.
They're charging you for air, but the contract is for water.
They are enriching themselves illegitimately. You paid for a steak and got a plate of steam, but you were charged for the steak.
Wow. Okay, so we've got the physics, the missing hardware, the broken laws. Time for the boss battle. If I'm a listener in La Paz or Los Cabos and my bill is sky high, what do I actually do? I can't just call them and say, hey, physics says you owe me money, right?
You definitely cannot. You need a strategy. The sources outline a very specific path. It starts with what they call audit mode. You need data.
What kind of data?
Visual evidence first. It sounds basic, but it is so powerful.
You mean film the meter?
Yes. Record your meter spinning like crazy when nothing is coming out of your taps, or when it's just sputtering and hissing. That visual proof, the counter ticking without the resource, is undeniable.
Okay, so I have my video. Then we escalate to the paperwork, the right of petition.
The derecho de petition. It's Article 8 of the Constitution. This isn't asking for a favor. You are exercising a constitutional right to get information from the government.
And the sources say to request specific loot. What's on the shopping list?
3 things. 1, the topographical profile. Show me the map of the high points in my neighborhood.
2,
The ARV inventory. Now show me on that map where the air release valves are.
because if there's a high point on the map and no valve in the inventory,
You have proof of the design flaw. And the third item is the killer, the maintenance logs.
why are the logs so important?
This is the smoking gun. Because even if they say, oh, we have valves, the water in Baja is full of minerals, calcium, magnesium. These valves get clogged.
They scale up.
Exactly. If there is no maintenance log, there is no maintenance. A clogged valve is a useless valve. You prove negligence.
That's smart. It's
Yeah.
not enough to say you installed them. You have to prove they still work. What if SAPE just ignores you?
Then you go to Profeco, the federal consumer prosecutor. You file a collective complaint based on that vicio oculto argument. And the great thing is the sources show this isn't just theory, it works.
The Hall of Fame. Yeah, I saw that. La Paz, Colonia, Camino Real. What happened there?
Residents proved the pneumatic spin, they organized, showed the evidence, and they got discounts on their bills.
And in Los Cabos.
Collective complaints there led to zero charge agreements for days where broken lines caused heavy air entrainment. It shows that when you apply pressure with the right arguments, the system buckles.
There was also mention of a personal defense strategy. You know, if you can't wait for the government to fix the pipes.
Right. The smart valve. The sources mention devices like Fluidlytics or the water Scrooge. These are valves you can actually install on your side of the meter.
How do they work? Do they vent the air out?
No, they usually work differently. They create back pressure. They sort of act like putting your thumb over the end of a hose. They compress the air before it gets to the meter.
So instead of a big expanded cloud of air spinning the turbine, it's a tiny compressed bubble that slips through.
Exactly. It keeps the line pressurized and stops the air from expanding in the first place. The sources say this can cut over registration by 10, 20, even 30%.
It's a way to patch the glitch locally while you fight the boss globally.
That's a great way to put it.
It's incredible that you might have to install your own hardware just to stop a utility from overcharging you.
It is. But that's the reality of the infrastructure gap. You have to be your own advocate.
So let's wrap this up. This is basically game over for the argument that paying for air is acceptable. The physics proves it happens.
The engineering manuals from AWWA and ISO say you must vent the air.
And the law, NANTRI 12 and Article 134, says you cannot legally bill for it.
The evidence is overwhelming. The system as it operates in these Tandeo zones is running outside of its own rules. It's a system glitch that just happens to generate revenue.
So here's the call to action for everyone listening. Go look at your plumbing. Listen to it. Do the pipes bang and shudder? Does the faucet sputter and hiss when you turn it on after a water cut?
And most importantly, go look at that meter when the water is coming back. If that little star or triangle is spinning like a fan and all you hear is hissing, that is the sound of money leaving your wallet.
Don't let them sell you wind. You have the inventory now. The laws, the standards, the strategy, use it.
Absolutely. The information is your leverage.
And I want to leave you with one final thought. We accept this with water because it's all hidden in underground pipes. But just imagine if you went to a gas station.
Okay.
You put the nozzle in your car, and for the first 10 seconds, the pump spins wildly, charging you $20, but it's just blowing air into your gas tank.
You would never, ever pay that bill. You'd probably call the police.
Exactly. You wouldn't pay for air at the pump. So why are we paying for it at the tap? The tools to fix this exist. The only thing missing is the pressure to apply them. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Stay curious.